Hello, everyone, and welcome to another elite episode of the Get Authentic with Marcus show. I'm your host, Marques Ogden. On today's episode, we are joined by Mr. Joe Templin. And you know what? Let's bring him on down. How you doing today, Joe?
Brother, it is so good to see you again. It's always a great day when I get to talk to you, Marcus.
Feel the same, my friend. I'm excited about having you come on and talk about your awesome book, what's going on. Joe, you know the program. You are a great friend of the show. First question: what does the word authentic mean to Joe?
Authentic means that there is alignment between the public and the private with who you are in every capacity. So if you are living in alignment, there's very little friction. There's very little lost energy. You can literally, as Chichimihai says, get into the state of flow. And when you have that, when you are truly authentic, life becomes so much easier and more fun.
When you can get into alignment. Ladies and gentlemen, you hear me say that word a lot. Joe, I did a speaking job yesterday for the Community Affordable Housing Equity Corporation in Raleigh, and I talked about alignment and putting yourself first to create balance in your life. When you're balanced, you have much more production, both personally and professionally. It absolutely flows in that way. Again, back to flow. So, Joe, now, please, one more question. What does being authentic and how do you show authenticity and how you show authenticity help you in your chosen career path?
So being authentic is, as I said, being truly who you are. And I am just insanely curious. I've been that way since I was a little kid, and I asked my mom why all the time. And I am still that way today, 50 plus years later. And so if you're sitting there with somebody and you're having a conversation with them, and you are curious about them, you can uncover and discover numerous things that can make you better, that can make that relationship better, that allow you to see opportunities to be able to serve and help that other individual. And so being able to be who you are, and me, it's just a big nerd, and I'm totally curious about everything. I'm fascinated by the world, allows that part of me to truly shine. And that is a major component of everything that I do.
I love that. Joe, you've been a friend of mine for a long time. We met through one of our great friends, Jamie Hopkins, who had a book come out himself. He was in New York City last week. I was chatting with him. You have a new book coming out. Please tell our global audience, Joe, all about your new awesome book project.
So this one is called Words of Others' Wisdom. It's available on Amazon. It's also available at my website, joetemplin.com. And this book is a little bit different than a lot of the other ones that I've written in that I'm not going to give you instruction about what to do. This is a, essentially a companion book like Marcus Aurelius's Meditations or various other ones, where I explore quotes and ideas from other people. And there's about 20 different concepts that I explore: work, play, responsibility, all these different things. And they are essentially facets of who we are. And by exploring these facets under different angles, different lights, different perspectives, it allows the diamond that is each one of us to actually sparkle and shine better.
You know, it's interesting, right, Joe? You talk about when we know who we are through work, play, responsibility, accountability, it allows us to become the best version of ourselves and allows our true light to shine. And that seems very simple and a great concept. But you and I both know between social media external pressure, people trying to keep up with other people, that is very difficult, especially, right, Joe, for young people to understand how they have to look at the world by looking at themselves first and stop comparing and contrasting to everybody else's social media image, or they have the perfect relationship. You have no idea what things are like behind closed doors. Please talk about how you and your awesome book help people understand, right, Joe, how to focus on them and find their light.
So this is a great question, Marcus. Thank you. So, part of it is that as parents, as leaders, as coaches, one of the things that we need to do is we need to be the black velvet under that diamond, and we need to shine the light to allow it to sparkle and shine and glitter. So part of it is allowing ourselves to fade into the background as we bring out the best components of others. But a diamond needs to be cut. It is created under that pressure and intensity and that heat over an extended period of time. And even if it has flaws, it is still beautiful in its own way. 50 years ago, it was always, totally clear diamonds. Now there's chocolate diamonds and there's like yellow diamonds and there's different colors around them and there's different cuts around them and they need to be polished. And so having that little bit of grind against it, that little bit of adversity where we push back on them in a positive manner helps them to expose their best components. As iron sharpens iron, so should men sharpen each other. And in some ways, that is our responsibility as leaders, as friends, as parents, as you well know, that we need to sometimes push back in these certain areas and to question them and make them question themselves so that they can discover truly where their best facets are and how to be able to bring out their own special inner beauty.
Joe, I know your story about some of the hardships, the struggles that you've gone through to get where you are today. So many things that you told me about and you talked about openly. Can you please tell our audience a little bit more about your story, your struggles, the adversity you overcame, the obstacles you endured through? Because now you're successful working in the financial industry as a consultant, an author, a teacher, full of wisdom, but you've had your own struggles. Because Joe, I feel when they hear that, they're like, "Oh my gosh, Joe's been through so much. He's now on the other side. His book can help me because I'm struggling. I need the help too. I want to get where Joe is, so that something he talks about can help me get past my issues."
And here's the thing, Marcus, I have failed more than most people will ever try in their life. And that is part of the process of success is you have to actually go through failure. They're not opposites. It's part of the pathway to be able to go through. Okay. And I have failed in terms of whether it's destroying my knee and having to rebuild it to become a successful martial artist multiple times, whether it is building a high $1 million round table level business in financial services and then having that collapse and rebuilding it again, then having that collapse. It's signing with a speakers bureau that went out of business. It was having one of my early publishers for one of my first books that was a number one book, and yet I literally made no money off of it because that company went out of business. And Jack Dempsey said that a champion is someone who gets up when he can't. And as long as we can get knocked down and stand back up and continue to fight, continue to challenge ourselves, continue to push forward, the inevitable success comes along the way. And if you've never been knocked down, if you've never been hungry, you can't appreciate food as much. If you've never lost something, you can't truly appreciate happiness. So the world is not all sunshine and rainbows. It's not going to be glorious every single day. A world in which it's just constant sunshine shine turns into a desert. We need that rain. We need that controversy. We need that adversity to help us become better versions of ourselves. And when we get through to the other side of that failure, of that rough patch, of that difficulty, and we say, wow, this is cool. And it then also helps remove a lot of the impurities in our spirit and in our cells, which then makes us that much purer and stronger for the next inevitable challenge.
Ladies and gentlemen, we always talk about this. You do not grow through the good times. You don't learn how to push yourself or challenge yourself through the easy times. You learn how to overcome obstacles when you're facing obstacles. Learn how to push through adversity when adversity's there. You become the best version of yourself when you have nowhere else to go, your back's against the wall, you're close to rock bottom, you're trying to ascend up the ladder, and you realize the only person that's there for you is you. I remember what that was like. It's funny, I took it 13 years ago. It's April 2026 right now. April 2013, I was literally bankrupt, broke, was working for $8.25 an hour. I hit rock bottom. I had absolutely no idea where I was going to end up with my life because I was totally just down in the dumps and in the gutter. But here I am now. And my point is, like Joe said, we need that rainstorm to push us through. We need to go through the hardships, the storm, the rain to be able to, like he said, grow and to be able to what? Grow and blossom from our trees, from our roots, what we put down. It's awesome. Joe, one question, we're going to get into the book, okay? One of my favorite quotes from General Dwight D. Eisenhower: the plan was useless. The planning was indispensable. Please tell our global audience, Joe, how important it is they understand that plans are going to always change because life is never a straight line.
Yeah, if you want to hear the universe laugh, tell God your plan. Okay. We all have plans. And as Mike Tyson says, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face. So, but it's all the training that came up before that. Understanding I'm going to get punched in the face and I can take it and I can keep moving forward, as Rocky Balboa talks about. So you do your plan and you should be asking, what if? What if the distributor has issues because of tariffs, so they can't get the certain parts? What if the key salesperson is sick or injured and can't do this? What if the bank doesn't approve the financing? What if? What is our backup plan? And a lot of people say don't have a plan B because that negates your plan A. No, you need to have the goal that you're trying to get to. And if plan A doesn't work, plan B, then plan C, whatever. You just keep trying and varying the attempts and moving along the different pathways, potentially, inevitably getting to that success. When you get knocked down, you get backed up. You get knocked off course, you follow that course to try and get back to where you need to be. And so it is that unshakable belief of I need to get to X, whether X is being the best father in the world, or X is I need to do this for my business so that the people that depend upon me succeed. And so that planning process is asking the questions so that if you're trying to cross this field and there's like a low fence like in Band of Brothers, or there's a little river, you can still get over or around it or through it to get to where you need to be on the other side. So that plan will alter because the universe changes consistently and constantly. But the process of planning allows you to adapt and overcome and ultimately still succeed.
Ladies and gentlemen, what does Darwin say? It's not the strongest that survives. It's not the smartest that survives. It's the one that can adapt the quickest. You have to be able to pivot and make adjustments when life throws you curveballs. Again, notice what I said: when life throws you curveballs. Joe, please tell us more about the book as far as what's one big takeaway. Because again, I love to ask authors this question because what I want to do is get them to understand, and the people listening, that when you read this book, there's a lot of great stuff in it, but there's this one main takeaway you can expect to gain right away from reading and finishing the author's awesome book. So, what would you say is one main takeaway that you would like to say from that regard?
So I have to preface this with I'm a big time geek, as you know from hanging out with me for over the years. And in the 1980s, one of the best selling book series was Douglas Adams' The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And in The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, this race of super intelligent, pan dimensional beings built a supercomputer called Deep Thought that took 7.5 million years to answer the ultimate question to life, the universe, and everything. And after 7.5 million years, this computer came back with the answer 42. And everybody who hears that laughs because they're like, oh, 42. And so it's a great response. But Douglas Adams, the author, was actually an early computer programmer. And in the ASCII computer language, which nobody uses anymore, 42 actually had a special meaning. 42 represented whatever you want it to be. And so the answer to life, the universe, and everything is 42. It is what you want it to be. And so if you read the section on responsibility or the section on play or the section on family relationships, you're going to hear all sorts of different concepts. You're going to read different quotes. You're going to get different perspectives. And you need to take all those different ideas and put them through your own heart, your own mind, your own soul to come out with what it means to you. And ultimately, success, happiness, excellence, all of them come down to your own personal definition and belief system that you need to discover through adversity over time. And so, 42.
Ladies and gentlemen, we always say in life, you're the one that's to take control of your journey. You are the one that is the captain of the ship. You're the one that's the driving factor. Darren Hardy says it best there's two magic factors in your success: consistency and the person looking back at you in the mirror. That's simple. Now, Joe, you talked a lot about success, happiness, achievement, going that. Been doing a lot of speaking. You've been seeing that on social. And one of our clients is a company called Trucordia. And they had an event called the Road to Summit. And I said the summit is the top of a mountain. It's elite status. It is stepping out of your comfort zone every single day. And so, Joe, we came up with a formula to reach the summit and keep going. Okay. Better connection creates better performance, which allows you to ascend to new summits. Better connection creates better performance. Joe, when you talk about your book and helping people to align, find their 42, getting where they're trying, get into their groove, right? Get into their flow, right? That makes me think about helping people connect better, not just with themselves, but with people around them to perform better. When you perform better, as you said earlier, my great friend, life is a lot more enjoyable. Can you help people break that down when you talk about, in that regard, the flow of yourself from better connection creates better performance, gets you to the road to summit?
Sure. This is a great concept. And thank you for that equation. I'm going to use that, Marcus. So, better connections to yourself, your body. Okay. And one thing that I'm not great about is listening to my body when I'm tired. I'm just suck it up. Let's go. We're going to the gym no matter what. So, sometimes I need to have a better connection there. It's the connection with the people in your environment, whether it's your office, your family, your neighborhood, your religious community, having those connections. And then moving beyond that, it's better connections with what you are learning and exposing yourself to. So somebody could go and read my whole book and not connect to anything, not be able to start connecting some dots within their life. Somebody can meet somebody like you at a conference and hear you and not be able to make the connections between one of the things you're saying, like your sour milk moment, to a point in your life. And so if they're not making those connections, if they're not trying to understand and put the pieces together, they're going to miss the big picture that the universe is trying to present to them. So if they can connect with more individuals, more knowledge, more experiences, and then take the time to pause and try and connect the dots internally, that is how they get better performance and ultimately reach their summit, whatever that component is.
Ladies and gentlemen, it comes back to wow, learning how to what? Listen. It comes back to learning how to connect with others and not make it about you or your agenda or what you want and get wisdom from people, gain insight from people. The best leaders never stop learning. I'm always going to listen to people like Joe or anybody that I know is qualified when it comes to their industry, to a topic, because yes, I'm a very smart individual, but I can keep learning. I'm going to keep learning till the day that I die. And the minute you stop learning, you might as well start dying because you're not going to get out of life what you really deserve. And you know what, Joe? This is a great question. I tell people, I said this yesterday on a talk. I actually have a video coming out about it shortly. Be a person that's interested in others, not a person trying to be interesting to others. Be a person that's always listening and getting wisdom and not talking and just observing and learning how to sit back. And again, like when I go speak, right, Joe, I always want to get there early to be able to meet people, adapt, learn from people, gain insight, listen, put those type of, that type of lingo to our talks to do what? Make it even more impactful. So again, Joe, what is your thought around telling people to be more interested in others and stop trying to always be interesting to others?
Well, if I'm talking, I can't learn anything. And as you said, if you stop learning, you stop growing, you stop living. So if I'm the talking head, I'm not receiving anything out of that. So yeah, I might have gotten a check for standing up on stage, but you know what? Money is fungible. You can find money anywhere. Finding knowledge, finding experiences, finding those relationships. The profit is in the relationship, as I teach young financial advisors. And I look to how you and I have pushed each other over the years. And every single time I get a chance to talk to you, whether it's here or just, a quick text message back and forth, I pick something up from that. And seeing my friend succeed, it's like, woo, this is awesome. And so if you can flip the normal equation, which is all about extracting from others, and instead focus on what can I give? What can I learn so that I can add to them? And making it like that. So it is taking from others' experiences and giving them of ourselves, having that sort of dynamic where we focus on how do we help each other? How do we make each other better? That creates better bonds. Creates better connections, as you said. And ultimately, that's what allows us to be able to get over the rough rivers of life and ultimately succeed.
Everybody, I'm always delighted to have my friend Joe stop by. Again, Joe, please tell us the name of your awesome book that just got released and where can our global audience go and purchase and support your amazing book project?
So it's called Words of Others' Wisdom. I love the cover that they ended up putting on here. And you can find it at Amazon or any other places books are found. Or if you want bulk copies or autographed copies, you can always get them at joetemplin.com. I know it's so hard to remember.
So hard. And Joe, if people wanted to like book you for a keynote or a workshop, should they go to your website? What's your email? Because again, right, Joe does a lot around culture and thinking and connection and how to really use communication to really up your and how to and Joe is the master of like how to build relationships. I always say, right, Joe, relationships are the oldest yet the newest currency because so many people don't think about it, but Lord, it's been that way since forever. And if you can learn to master that, I mean, Joe, I had a client, right? I was on a call today, right, with a client. and I've been coaching for now going to our third year. And I said, oh, by the way, I said, Dan, there's a payment due for 7,500. I said, I haven't run one almost a year and a half. Think about right. He said, well, it's okay, not a problem. We'll take care of it tomorrow. I said, great. So I was on the call. He shot me a text like 5 minutes. Like, okay, Marques, use this card for 7,500. Boom. Again, he trusts me. Like he just gave me his credit card to run for 7,500. Didn't even think about it, Joe. Boom. Like not even a question because that's the relationship.
Yes.
That's what it's built off of. And people need to understand that. And so if you want to learn that, Joe is a great guy for keynotes, workshops. How can our audience, Joe, get in touch with you if they want to book you for a keynote, a workshop, or a corporate training?
Reach out to me at joetemplin.com or email me at joe@joetemplin.com. Try and make it easy.
Love it. Ladies and gentlemen, reach out to him, connect with him. And here's the authentic tip. I'll say it one more time. Relationships are the oldest, yet the newest currency. If you want to build something long lasting, ladies and gentlemen, build it off relationships. That's how I met my great friend Jamie Hopkins, who Joe and I both know. I did a job for Jamie, but the first thing I did, I came out to his office where he was working in Nebraska, in Omaha, to do a sit down with his coaches and his team, and I didn't charge him a dime. He said, Marques, you're the first person I offered this to come out for a day and a half and didn't charge me a dime. And that was what now, Joe? 7 years ago. 2019. And we have been great friends ever since. That's how I met Joe. And that's what great relationships will beget you even more great relationships. Again, my name is Marques Ogden. I am the host of the Get Authentic with Marques show. Thanks for tuning in. Have a fantastic day.